Boy 11. With me is Justin Elick at Big Elite 42, and we are stacking to win it for Week 15.
I love it. I can't help it.
No, the intro, I mean, you have to say it like that.
You have to. It's way more exciting than just the monotone stacking to win. And it's not a great week for stacks either. I mean, we got like one high team total, and everyone else is – a lot of these are way, way lower than I would expect. I mean, I know the weather kind of comes into play, but some of these team totals are just crazy low.
And I think the one that jumped out at me was, I mean, Cardinals-Saints, you know, obviously home matchup for the Cardinals. I don't know. I guess I anticipated them 28-29. I mean, still not bad.
Yeah, I mean, 26.75 is not a bad total there.
No, definitely not. But this first one here, I mean, 32.75 for the Falcons. A lot of different ways you can do it with, too. So that's the cool thing with this Falcon stack.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of have to play Matt Ryan in it. I think Matt Ryan's going to be a really popular play across the board, really in all formats, and rightfully so. I mean, coming off a great game last week, now he's got, you know, just about the best matchup you're going to see against the 49ers defense. It's among the worst in the league. Probably the worst overall defense, I'd say. And then you got Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman. We talk about how bad the 49ers run defense is. I mean, it's historically bad. So you can stack those two guys if you want. Pair them with Ryan. Even if Jones plays, I don't think I'll be paying up for him. I think Gabriel's the guy that I'm going to throw in there if I'm throwing in a wide receiver. But, you know, like you said, the most interesting stack for me here is if you're going to do two Atlanta stacks, I think for me you're going to go with one that's just the running backs, and then another one I think you can go like full-on stack because if Jones doesn't play again, there's not a whole lot of a trickle down here. I mean, it's pretty much these guys alone.
No, I think looking at these backs too, I mean, Tevin Coleman's been friendly in the passing game, so you know, I certainly like him going this way, just because he's a little bit cheaper than Freeman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, he gets looks in the red zone. I mean, even in the passing game. So that's a good spot.
Yeah, definitely. This Cardinal stack here, I mean, this one could be considered a value, even if you plug in Johnson, because the guys you can surround him with still on this team. I mean, Jermaine Gresham's, you know, bare min. J.J. Nelson's very cheap.
Yeah, I mean, it's really the tough spot. Like you said, it's getting David Johnson, who's, I mean, as expensive as we've seen a player, not even just this year, like ever. I mean, it's crazy. 10-1, 98. Coming off a game that, you know, for him was his worst game of the season, or one of his worst games of the season, but 121 total yards. Either way, Michael Floyd gone now. Larry Fitzgerald really hasn't been very good recently. Part of that due to Carson Palmer's struggles, but you know, Gresham, he's getting a ton of targets among tight ends. I mean, I think he's top 5 in targets last couple weeks. And those two go way back. I mean, in Cincinnati days, those two guys were a nice little duo. He's kind of the safety blanket there. And then you got the safety blanket of David Johnson, who can take to the house anytime. J.J. Nelson, they're getting involved in a whole bunch of different ways. So I think for me, I'll probably be leaving out the other receivers, going with the cheap guys here. And because, I mean, you kind of have to. You don't want to be paying – you know, upper mid-tier price for Palmer, top-tier price for Johnson, and then forcing in a guy like Fitzgerald that I don't really think you need to have this week.
No, and I mean, no Michael Floyd, obviously, and John Brown, I mean, you know, hasn't been playing for quite some time, and I think he's been active, but sickle cell thing that he's got going on hasn't really made him a factor. So usually we talk about these Cardinals wideouts, and there's like 5 guys you can mention off, and they're in play. But this week, I mean, finally, it seems to be somewhat funneled down.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those spots that really, like, it's pretty straightforward with where you're going to get your production here.
Yeah, definitely. Contrarian stack here, you got the Titans taking on the Chiefs, and we kind of talked about the Chiefs being a good fantasy defense, and you know, they can't give up some points and can't give up some yards.
Yeah, I mean, that team total of 18.5 is very scary, but you know, recency bias is going to keep this ownership really, really low. As bad as Mariota and company were last week against Denver, they still won the game as bad as that offense was, because their defense is much improved, especially against the run. But, you know, we talk about how some of these upper tier defenses, you know, aren't quite as good against the run than they are against the pass. And that's the case with KC. I mean, they're 19th, according to Football Outsiders, against the run, 8th against the pass. DeMarco Murray, one of those guys, one of the higher volume guys in the league. So, you know, you throw him in there, and then he's going to have low ownership because there's a lot of those guys up high, and then people are going to want to pay down if they're going to pay for top tier wide receivers. So he's kind of in that like no man's land there. 7,400 on FanDuel, 69 on DraftKings. similarly priced to Devontae Freeman, who you figure is going to be pretty popular. So I think these guys, nice low owned potential. Not guys that I'm going to be throwing into mini lineups because it is still a pretty tough matchup. But Derek Johnson out. This is a Chiefs defense. It's definitely still beatable.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I mean, you look at Marcus Mariota. In terms of red zone efficiency, I mean, he's been arguably one of the best in the league so far this season. I mean, he hasn't turned the ball over. And you also look, I mean, Murray can be used in the passing game as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've been surprised at his low usage in the passing game sometimes. So he's definitely a guy that you can keep in mind for potentially taking one through the air into the house.
Yeah, definitely. Value stack, and obviously this one we've kind of talked about here quite a bit of late, especially with Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders. You're looking to kind of just complete the package here with Trevor Siemian.
Yeah, I mean, it's Siemian. We talked about him earlier. He's a guy that I've liked as a value play recently. I've been on him, a couple of weeks, and by volume alone, like the guy, it's not. 2 months ago, there's no way I would have played him even at this price because he just looked horrible. But finally building a rapport with those receivers, and that's a tough two guys to match up with for any defense. And the Patriots, bottom 5 defense against the pass so far this season. So you're not attacking him on the ground. Denver's not attacking anybody on the ground, so you don't worry about that. I mean, we could easily see 45, 50 pass attempts from Siemian here again at 51 last week. I mean, it's just kind of a lock that these guys are going to see double-digit targets, and in a full stack, you don't have to worry about getting the guy who doesn't score touchdowns because we could easily see one of these guys getting 2. Make it easy in your stack and just lock in both the guys.
Yeah, certainly. So I like these quite a bit. Anyone else you kind of just missed the cut, or maybe you're looking at?
I like Oakland, but it's another one of those spots where I think it's Crabtree and Cooper both a little bit banged up. I don't like targeting running backs against San Diego a whole lot because they've actually been decent against the run, but I do think this is one of those games where there's going to be a lot of points scored. I just always seem to, in non-stacks, be on the wrong side of Cooper or Crabtree. So I think for me, I definitely like the Oakland stack again. And, of course, always like the Pittsburgh stack. I mean, yeah. I'd be lying if I said that the Bengals had a good defense this year. It's not. So there's been some shootouts in this series, more of the slugfest, so I'm kind of hesitant on them. I think they'll be more popular than I'd like. I think more often than not, I'm just going to keep Bell in my lineups.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, to point out with Crabtree Cooper, it's never both of them going off at the same time, which is always an issue when you're completely stacking them. It's one or the other, and then you get freaking Seth Roberts who comes down in there with a red zone touchdown.
And he's been doing that a lot too. There's nothing worse.
No, definitely not. So these are the stacks that you're looking at for this week. If you want to check out Justin's article, you can head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. It's up on the site, and be sure to check out the rest of our Week 15 content.